Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to daily call of His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, are we going to continue this previous series, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, verse 21? Or
Yeah, that will be the verse for today.
yes, Maharaj. I will just share that screen. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees. As Maharaj mentioned, we will be Maharaj will be continuing on this departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka, which is Canto 1, Chapter 10, and we will continue from verse 21. Hare Krishna Maharaj, over to you, please.
Yeah, I just want to mention that I sent you an email, so if you could, not an email, I'm sorry, a text message. You can respond to that when you get time.
Sure, Maharaj, sure, I will do.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm just sharing the screen, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj, over to you, please.
Yeah, good. Mhm. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 10th chapter, verse 21. I believe it's Lord Krishna's departure for Hastinapur. Savai Kilam Purusham Puratano Yareka Asir Avishesha Atmani Agre Gunebhyo Jagat Atmanishvare Nimilitan Man Nishisu Saktisu. They say, here he is, the original personality of Godhead. As we definitely remember, he alone, before the manifested creation of the modes of material nature, and in him only, because he is the Supreme Lord, all living beings merge, as if sleeping at night, their energy suspended. There are two types of dissolutions of the manifested cosmos. At the end of every 4,320,000,000 solar years, when Brahma, the Lord of one particular universe, goes to sleep, there is one annihilation. At the end of Lord Brahma's life, which takes place at the end of Brahma's 100 years of age, in our calculation, at the end of 6,640,000,000 times 30 times 12 times 100 solar years. There's a complete annihilation of the entire universe. And in both the periods, both the material energy called Mahatattva and the marginal energy called Jivatattva merge in the person of the Supreme Lord. Living beings remain asleep within the body of the Lord until there is another creation of the material world. And that is the way of creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material manifestation. The material creation is affected by the interaction of the three modes of material nature set in action by the Lord. And therefore it is said here that the Lord existed before the modes of material nature were set in motion. In the Shruti mantra, it is said that only Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, existed before the creation, and there was no Brahma, no Shiva, or any demigods. Vishnu means Mahavishnu, who is lying in the causal ocean. By his breathing only, all the universes are generated in seeds and gradually develop into gigantic forms with innumerable planets within each and every universe. The seeds of universe develop into gigantic forms in the way seeds of a banyan tree develop into numberless banyan trees. This Mahavishnu is the plenary portion of Lord Shri Krishna, who is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita 548 as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the original personality of Godhead, Govinda, whose plenary portion is the Mahavishnu. All the Brahmas, the heads of the universe, live only for the period of his exhaling after the universes are generated from the pores of this transcendental body. Thus, Govinda, or Lord Krishna, is the cause of Mahavishnu only. The ladies talking about this Vedic truth must have heard it from the authoritative sources. An authoritative source is the only means of knowing about transcendental subject matter definitely. There are no alternatives. The merging of the living beings into the body of Mahavishnu takes place automatically at the end of Brahma's 100 years. But that doesn't mean that the individual living being loses his identity. The identity is there, and as soon as there is another creation, by the supreme will of the Lord, all the sleeping, inactive living beings are again let loose to begin their activities in the continuation of past different spheres of life. It is called Suptaptita Nyaya, or awakening from sleep and again engaging in one's respective continuous duty. When the man is asleep at night, he forgets himself, what he is, what his duty is, and everything of his waking state. But as soon as he awakens from slumber, he remembers all that he has to do and thus engages himself again in his prescribed activities. The living beings also remain merged into the body of Mahavishnu during the period of annihilation. But as soon as there is another creation, they rise to take up their unlimited finished work. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8:18 and 19. The Lord existed before the creative energy was set in motion. The Lord is not a product of material energy. His body is completely spiritual, and there is no difference between his body and himself. Before creation, the Lord remained in his abode, which is absolute and one. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gena Jana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swam Padatikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Panchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu pacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare. So here we are in the 10th canto, 10th chapter, I'm sorry, of the first canto. And you'll see throughout the first canto, and also the second canto and part of the third canto, there is a lot of emphasis on the creation and the sub-creation, the overall gigantic creation of all of the universes, and then the sub-creation of all of the manifestations that make up the ingredients within the universes, that is the bodies of the living entity. And all of this is connected directly to the energy of the Supreme Lord, who puts everything in motion through these energies. Parasya Shakti Vidhaya Suyate Swabhavika Jnana Parakriya Cha. So Krishna is the supreme force in all of existence, and he manifests his desires accordingly through his various energies. The energies are categorized for creation and for different aspects of his personality, such as his leelas with his devotees. Before one can understand the identity of Krishna, as it's mentioned in the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, and we also have an indication here that Krishna, he is the cynosure, he is the loving object of the residents of Hastinapur. Yudhisthira, his sister Subhadra, and many of the queens, and all of the associates there were innumerable, many associates. They develop a nice, friendly, and loving relationship with the Lord. But they are aware of his position as the supreme power within creation and the supreme source of all that exists. So Bhagavatam, particularly in the beginning, in this first, second, and also parts of the early part of the third canto, goes into the tattva of the manifestation of Krishna in his different creative forms, such as Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshi Vishnu, and Kshirodakshi Vishnu, which are all programmed by the Supreme Lord Krishna himself to act as instruments to bring about and to wind up different creations. Because the material world is permanent, it's eternal, but the manifestations are temporary. In other words, there'll always be a material world, but the different manifestations come and go. Just like in the state, there'll always be a prison house, but the prisoners come and go within the prison house. So in the same way, the manifestations of creation and maintenance and annihilation, which is given charge by the three main deities, Brahma for creation, Shiva for annihilation, and Vishnu for maintenance, is the energy of the Supreme Lord Krishna, who manifests the initial part of the creative aspect within the element of Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu is the manifestation of Krishna's incarnation, who brings about creation, and at the time of annihilation, all of the living entities, according to their karma, are again, not according to their karma, but they merge back into the body of Mahavishnu, and according to their karma, when the time for the next creation comes, they again manifest themselves. And then Brahma, who is considered to be the secondary creator, he creates on behalf of the Lord. He manifests the bodies, and the Lord gives the ingredients by which this manifestation is done, and that is the elements that make up the material energy. They're created by the Lord directly. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego are created by the Lord in their initial state, and then they expand themselves, and then they are formulated into different types of bodies, which make up 8,400,000 species of life. So it's interesting in this section where we're hearing about the loving relationships between Krishna and his devotees. This particular verse comes up. And it's interesting because it seems to be, in one sense, out of context in trying to describe what is happening in Dwarka with in Hastinapur with Krishna and his devotees. But this verse sort of illustrates that before one can understand Krishna and his loving relationships with his devotees in Vrindavan, or even in Dwarka, even in Hastinapur, or wherever, one has to understand his position as the supreme source, the supreme power in all of existence. Otherwise, one will misunderstand and think that Krishna might be just like an ordinary human being. He has, or maybe just a little bit powerful in it, or more powerful. He has loving relationships with other persons, and he seems to express the various types of emotions in those loving relationships. So it looks very similar to what goes on between people in this material world. But because it's the Supreme Lord, the essence is completely different. But aside from that, one has to understand that that same person who is the source of everything is now, he's the child of his mother. He is the friend of his associates. He is the lover of many girls. So otherwise, people will misunderstand, and they do. That's why Bhagavatam very carefully sets the stage for understanding Krishna in his sweetness manifestation as the wonderful boy in Sri Vrindavan Dham, which you see when those of you who have been following along in this particular section, you'll see there's a lot of loving exchanges. It's almost like the 10th canto is giving us a preview of what is about to happen when we reach the 10th canto in this particular chapter. And it's quite unique, but again, to remind us all that Krishna is the source of Mahavishnu, he's the source of everything. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Kar Sarva Karna Karna. And although he is the source of everything, he does nothing. He creates the energies, and the energies will work according to his desire. The manifestation of the three modes of material energy, as it's described in the Bhagavad Gita, it says that beyond these three modes, there is nothing else that makes up the material energy. So everything is inclusive in the three modes of material nature when we talk about the sum total of the material energy. But those three aspects, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvas, are all creations of the Supreme Lord, who programs these energies to work in a certain way, which are in line with the various desires of the living entities. And therefore, when one plugs into the material activities, they connect with a particular manifestation of one of the modes of material energy. And due to that mode, they get a particular result from that activity, goodness, passion, or ignorance. That's based on desire and activity. So everything is nicely structured, perfectly structured for the two things, that the material world has two purposes for the living entity. One, to fulfill the living entity's desires to be separate from the Lord. Two, to frustrate those desires and ultimately inspire one to take the spiritual life. These are the two. There are those who don't want to get out of the material one, even the fact that they remain entangled in various forms of suffering, they still want to stay in the material energy. And so they have many desires. It says the desires of the living entity in the material world are so, it's like a complex arrangement of various interactions of different energies and thoughts, which manifest in so many varieties of desires, which entangle one according to their connection with a particular mode of material energy, goodness, passion, ignorance. So all of this scientific and arrangement is done by the Lord. Hopefully, this is all done for people to ultimately come to the platform of giving up their desires to try to enjoy here and wanting to engage in devotional service to the Lord. And we see here what happens to the living entities at the time of annihilation. Just like we go to sleep at night, and for so many hours, we are on a stage of not remembering anything of our waking existence. And then after some time, we wake up. So there is a long sleep, which comprises billions of years. That is called the interim period, where all of the annihilation of the material world takes place, and the living entities are brought back into the body of Mahavishnu for this extended sleep state. And the annihilation is described in different places, especially in the 12th canto, describes the details of the annihilation. How, when it's time, the sun starts to become hotter and also closer to the different planets, and the planets are set on fire by the force of the sun, and everything burns into ashes. And then there is rain that goes on for 100 continuous years. And then it stops, and then everything is destroyed. And everything merges into this big ocean of water. But the living entities are escorted out of that by the arrangement of the Lord into the body of Mahavishnu. And it's a sleep state. So you might think, my God, I'm an active being. I have to stay in an inactive state for billions of years, not even knowing who I am, not even knowing that I even exist. Well, yeah, that's part of the punishment of coming to this material world. So sometimes people ask, what happens to people who are engaged in devotional service and then the annihilation occurs? Do they have to merge back into the body of Mahavishnu and stay there and then come out and finish up their bhakti in the next manifestation? The answer is no. That anyone who is engaged in devotional service, when the annihilation comes, they immediately go back home, back to Godhead, because they were engaged in devotion, even if they have not been reached the stage of perfection. That is the special mercy, that where devotional service cannot be interrupted by anything material. So therefore, even though it's a material manifestation and everything is ended, those living entities who have begun their bhakti in whatever stage they are, they go back to the spiritual world. So this is one of the advantages of bhakti. And if you stay engaged, you're guaranteed in due course of time to return to the spiritual world. So all of this is nicely orchestrated by the Lord. And to understand more of this, we can read the first, second, and third canto, and of course, Brahma Samhita. And the very beginning of Brahma Samhita describes in great detail the whole manifestation of the external energy. Okay, so it's a very complex, very amazing structure how the Lord has created in order to facilitate and to bring back the living entities back to him in devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Such a wonderful class, really amazing points that you mentioned, like Krishna is not only great, but he's also sweet, so sweet. And as you mentioned that when, like what happens at the time of annihilation, but good news for devotees that devotees are taken care by Lord and they go back to spiritual world, which is something which also motivates everybody and all of us that we should really focus more and more on devotional service and try to become better devotee. So thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I will really request everyone, first, please switch on your videos. It really is a nice way to interact. Maharaj can also see everyone. So it's a Sunday, good day where you can really switch on your video. So I really humbly request if majority of the devotee can switch on their video. And if you have any questions, comments, yes, Supriya Mataji, I can see you have raised, just come back. So anybody who any questions, comments, and realizations, please, nice opportunity to ask at this point of time. In case you cannot ask, you can type in chat window and I will read on your behalf. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, Supriya Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Maharaj, for this class. I just want to ask, there are two annihilations mentioned here in this purport. First annihilation is when, 1 second. Okay, first annihilation is when at the end of every 4,320 million years, solar years, and another is 8,640 million solar years. I mean, million into 20 or into 12 into 100. So what is the difference between these two annihilations? Both are the same, right? It's the entire universe that gets annihilated.
No, there is 14 planetary systems, and there's 3 levels that comprise these 14, the upper, middle, and lower. So in both annihilations, the middle, and in one annihilation, the middle and the lower planetary systems, that's the partial one. The higher planets don't get annihilated in the smaller annihilation. That means the Loka, the higher planets, they stay until the final annihilation, and then all 3 levels get annihilated, all 14 planetary systems. Partial and complete. So partial means middle and lower in the first one, and then in the second one, all levels of the universes all the way up to Brahmaloka. Brahma goes back. Even his planet is destroyed.
Okay, in the middle level of planetary system, only Earth is there, is it? I mean, Earth and all the other down are lower and middle. Is it?
The Earth is in the middle planetary system. Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Swargaloka, Bhuloka, and Bhurvaloka. We're in Bhuloka, which is middle. Then there's many planets around the Earth also that are part of the middle planetary system that are not even seen by the scientists and the attempts to see planets beyond. They can only see a few planets, but there are thousands of planets in the and also smaller universes around the Earth also.
Maharaj, we say that we originally belong to spiritual world, and we came in on this earth in the form of this repeated cycle of birth, death, disease, etc. This repeated birth cycle, because of our desire to lord it over the material energy, to have a material separately control the material world. But there must be a so if we are part and parcel of Krishna, we must be originally in the spiritual world. And at one point, we must have desired that, okay, we want to enjoy separately from the Lord. So how this exactly, how, so here there are two questions. First of all, we say that we manifested as a water bodies in the water as a fish and other bodies. So why we selected to manifest in first into water bodies, and secondly, for the human birth we need to have a good karmas, and human birth depends upon the karmas. So how the animal changes its birth into human body, because there is no karma part on the animal behalf. So when the animal gets a human body, and why we chose water bodies to select to start with, why not directly human, and who was the first human?
Well, we don't choose our bodies. They're given to us.
Based on our karma, right?
Well, when you fall from, it says, there's different statements in the Shastra. It says when you fall from the spiritual world, you take the body of Lord Brahma, and then from Brahma you fall all the way down to the aquatics, which is the lowest. That's one statement. Other statements say we go directly to the aquatics. So you'll hear Prabhupada speak about that you take birth as Lord Brahma, then you fall all the way down after that. So don't worry about it. You can't figure that one out. And you don't have any choice. Once you decide to be separate from Krishna, then you're under the influence of the material energy. And then you get a body accordingly. The material energy gives you that body. You have no choice. It's like people in the material world now. They don't know where they're going to go after death. They have no idea. They guess, or they speculate, or they hear something and believe it. But the body, karma, daiva, matrena, is spoken in the 7th canto Bhagavatam. It says, according to one's activities and desires, one gets a particular body in the next birth. That's given automatically. Now, coming from the humans, coming to the human form from the evolutionary cycle of animals, that's written, I think, in the 6th canto, or maybe in the 7th canto, I'm not sure, is that from monkeys, their next birth is human life in the mode of ignorance. from tigers, their next body is human life in the mode of passion. And from cows, their next body is human life in the mode of goodness. And that's mentioned, these three species: monkeys, cows, and wild animals like tiger. That's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So that these three particular species, lower species, are the topmost in the evolutionary scale within in the categories of the modes. And that's why Prabhupada would say, yes, Darwin, yeah, your relative is a monkey. But this is just a natural evolution. So you can, it's in the Bhagavatam, you can read it.
Thank you, Maharaj. I'm yet to completely read Bhagavatam. I have not finished yet. I've just started. Thank you very much.
Go systematically.
Thank you, Mataji. Maharaj, there is SB 13. I think it's Prabhu, but I'm not sure. He has mentioned something on chat as a comment that it is so funny how they convince us that some of other planets in the sky are different. If we don't understand that, it's Rishabh Prabhu, sorry. He's saying that if we don't understand that Krishna is the supreme, we will not understand the sweets of Krishna interactions, taking them to be just a reaction in ignorance like we do. Krishna does everything with full consciousness and his own desire. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai.
Nice, yeah. Whatever he does for the benefit of others and for his own personal enjoyment simultaneously. Okay, did we reach the end?
So Maharaj, like I have one question while devotees comes up with another question or comment. You mentioned that in the full annihilation, all the 14 planetary systems are annihilated. That means Brahma, Satyalok also. So like when the supreme annihilation, like complete annihilation happens, we get new Brahma, like as other demigods and other, they change. Or it's the same, like just go in that inactive state and then come back like human beings.
Brahma is a post. So it says, if you perform austerities for, I forget how many lifetimes, you can actually reach the post of Lord Brahma. I think it says if you perform austerities for 100 lifetimes, you can reach the post of Lord Shiva. Shiva and Brahma are both posts. But at the time of creation, there is the original Brahma and the original Shiva. And the demigods in their original forms also. We call them the original demigods. That's at the time of creation.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a little complex. You really have to study. It takes a lot of, and it's very hard to study. If you get a chance, listen to Tamal Krishna Goswami gave a series of talks on the Brahma Samhita, 1990 in Mayapur, 1991 in Vrindavan. And you'll get a lot of information about the whole manifestation of creation in those lectures. can search out those lectures probably on his website.
Thank you, Maharaj. I will search, and if I find, I will also share in the devotees.
I guess I can make it available. I just have to send it. But I don't have any power to send it right now. I don't have any space in my Google Drive. I can't send anything. I went beyond my space limit. So they won't let me send anything right now.
Yes, I got, Maharaj. I got it on his website. It's saying Brahma Samhita 1990, yes.
1990 and 1991.
1991 it's not showing, but 1990 there are multiple lectures on Brahma Samhita.
Yeah, it's a series.
Yes, a series.
That's Mayapur.
Yeah.
Okay. Seems like this subject matter is too complicated for most people to think of questions.
Supriya Mataji, you have raised your hand again. Maybe I will just come back to Revati Mataji first. She has raised. Revati Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the very nice class. I have a question about, you mentioned like, Guru Maharaj, like this material world is permanent, but manifestation is temporary. So like you gave an example, like as a prisoners will come and go. So that means like we are coming, this material world is permanent. We are coming here for purification. But still, this is not an illusionary. I'm trying to understand, like, when we say, like, this world is illusionary, it's like not temporary. And again, like, material world is like permanent. So how should we understand? I mean, this is...
Well, you just explained it. Material world is real, but it's not the place where you can fulfill your desires.
So this is like permanent, it always stays, but we come here for the purification.
That's the intention of the material world, to purify you from your desires to be separate from the Lord and bring you back to the spiritual world. But it's also, for those who don't want that, they have the choice to stay here life after life and simply transmigrate in different bodies. You can do that for millions of lifetimes. Because they want to stay here, they don't want to make an effort to get out. Or if they do, they do not know the right effort to get out. So it's mentioned that's the two reasons why the manifestation of the material energy is to fulfill the desires of the living entity, be separate from the Lord, and to frustrate those desires, to eventually causing the living entity to look towards the spiritual realm as the goal of life. Both of those desires. The only two purposes of this world.
Thank you very much. Because we are performing devotional service. We are engaged in devotional service. As you have mentioned, like here, like this material world is all about three modes. And we are engaged in devotional service to come out of these modes. We also have a desire to become, but still we struggle with some modes. Is it due to still the karma, or like how should?
No, we're still not purified yet, so we still act in a material way, and therefore we get some token reaction with the modes of material nature. Not like the non-devotees who are fully absorbed in it. But because we're still not accustomed to the process of devotional service, we still act in a materialistic way. Then we get a token reaction from the material energy. And that's Krishna's way of pushing us forward. So we have to understand, what is this science of this way in our up and coming retreat in New Vrindavan, we're going to explore the whole science of bhakti in detail. So you know the subtleties of how the material energy keeps the living entity attracted and connected to the material energy. If you don't know these subtleties, then you might be performing devotional service, and these subtleties will still remain, and you can't see why you're not making advancement.
Mm.
So bhakti is a great science, but it has to be performed according to the instructions and guidance of the acharyas, the scriptures, and the spiritual master.
Yeah, yes, Guru Maharaj, thank you so much. As you said, like subtle things are there that we really need to understand what subtle things are there, and so that we can advance in devotional service.
Yeah, so we can avoid those things.
Mm. Yes, we can avoid those things. Yeah, it's very important to understand that subtle things, because we don't know that what are the modes that it's bothering at subtle level. So
See, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that if you stay in kirtan, you can crush, you can destroy all of those subtleties in material energy and become purified. So kirtan is the fast track back home, back to Godhead. If you stay in kirtan, that is, yeah. And so he makes that point when he describes the different subtleties that trap the living entity. And he says that Harinam Kirtan, Sankirtan crushes all inauspiciousness, all material desires, everything. But you have to develop a taste for, and you have to stay in the kirtan.
Mm-hmm.
But we won't do that because we think, I got a job, and I got a family, and I got so many things I have to do. And that's nice. But if you become expert at those things, you get a chance to do it again in the next life. So kirtan is the way out. It's the way in and the way out.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Because as you said, like things are which are beyond us. So only way is like Krishna's mercy and Sankirtana Yajna will help us to, completely purify us.
Hello, Doshani Di Rajana Asti Eko Mahagun Kirtana Eva Krishna Sya Mukta Sangam. That this material world is an ocean of faults, but there's one benediction. Harinam Sankirtan. Simply by performing this, one can purify their existence and achieve the spiritual realm.
Yes, thank you.
Of course, we might think it's impractical, but it's possible. We should all be thinking, well, how much time am I giving to kirtan? How much more can I give to kirtan? You can also listen to kirtan on your different players, and then that's also good. Keeps your consciousness in the mood of kirtan. You can dance around the kitchen or around your living room. We do that sometimes. Many temples, they do kirtan in the evening, on the weekends, and sometimes extended kirtans. So, and of course, there's Harinam, there's kirtan festivals. Summers are coming up. The kirtan festivals are going to be rising everywhere in the world. So yeah, this is where you get a taste. Visayam vinivartate niharasya dehinam raso vyarjam prasopyasya param driswa nivartante. That by developing a higher taste, one can give up the lower taste, which is the material taste. but you have to taste something. If you don't taste the higher taste, then you look for taste somewhere else. So this Krishna consciousness is the higher taste. If you perfect a particular type of service, by that perfection, you can also achieve perfection and go back home, back to God. The process is there. We just have to pick it up. We read Rupa Goswami speaks in his Nectar of Instructions, the 6 things that are favorable for devotional service, verse number 3, and the 6 things that are unfavorable for devotional service, verse number 2. These 2 verses, Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes, and he creates a book out of these 2, of Bhakti Aloka, where he describes each one of these 6 principles in detail. What pushes us up forward and what holds us back. Because the whole process is things to do and things to avoid. We have to know those. What do we need to do? What do we need to avoid? Devotees are pretty much aware of what to do, but they're not so good about what to avoid. That's what we get. And that's what slows down our progress in devotional service. So we have to know both. But even if you don't know what to do or what to avoid, just stay in the kirtan. And from there you'll progress back home, back to God.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very nice. Jai. Sridevi Mataji, you have also raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Guru Maharaj, how will we know that we are on track and that we are progressing nicely versus veering off track and not even knowing about it?
And a lot of that knowledge comes by the association of devotees.
Mm.
And the more we take association of devotees, the more we can see clearly what to do and what to avoid. But we can also read the books and understand through the knowledge given there. Hear from the spiritual masters. So we should remember what we hear, what we're exposed to, what to avoid, what to accept.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Maharaj, I see hand raised from your end. Sorry, maybe it's this mistake.
Me?
Yes, it's just showing some. That's fine. I just thought like something. It's good to get your blessings in this form. That's good. Thank you.
Just saying hello. Maybe goodbye.
Supriya Mataji, you have raised your hand. You have any question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance again.
Please go ahead, Mataji.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
So, Maharaj, I also read somewhere in that there are 14 Manus in one Brahma's day. So, what is the function of those Manus, and why? I mean, what is the need of having these different periods?
You read that there is 14 what?
14 Manus, and this is in 1.3.
Yeah.
Canto 1.3, third chapter.
Yeah, the Manus are described in the 9th canto mostly. Different, we're in Vaivashvata Manu now. There's, that's the Manu we're in now. There's many Manus. There's 71 Manus in the lifetime of Brahma, I think. 14 in the day of Brahma. I'm not sure. 14 Manus in the day of Brahma. The Brahmas, the Manus, they are the ruling heads within the higher realms. Like Indra is a post. Now, the name of the particular Indra that lives now, his name is, Sri Devi, what's the name of the Indra now? Can't remember his name.
No, Guru Maharaj, sorry.
Yeah, so Indra's a post, Shiva's a post, Brahma's a post. So these Manus, they are kings or rulers. So they they establish religious principles for a particular time period. So if you read the 9th canto, you'll see there's a whole series of Manus. When Manu comes, you have Swayambhuva Manu, you have, Chakshusha Manu, different. They're just like intermittent rulers with a longer period of extension. That's them. They have their followers, they set their principles like that. And mankind, there's a thing called Manu Samhita. Manu Samhita is the law books for mankind accordingly. But we don't follow Manu Samhita to the T. We follow Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the pure religious scriptures. The Manus also give the material standards for living in that particular age.
Another thing is that what Revati Madhavji asked is that certain thing we need to do and certain thing we need to avoid. So are you saying that those subtle things are at the level of mind, ego, and intelligence?
Well, that's where they exist in those 3 areas. They exist there.
So I believe mind is nothing but, when we say mind, is my understanding correct that mind is nothing but our feeling, thinking, and willing, or our desires that constitute the mind part of it?
The mind means thinking, feeling, and willing.
Yeah.
You think of something, you get a feel for it, and you do it or not do it. Sankalpa vikalpa, accepting and rejecting. So the material mind is simply a covering over the spiritual mind. The material mind is connected to the material body. It's not real.
And so we have a material mind and spiritual mind. So what is the difference between these 2 minds?
One is real and the other one is a shadow, that's all. Material mind is a covering. Just like you put a coat on, your coat is over your body. So the coat is not you, but the body is more connected to you because, you exist within the body. So the material mind is just a conglomeration of material desires and activities that we have accumulated for many lives. So destroying the material mind is liberation. and real awakening the spiritual mind. So you get rid of that material mind through bhakti.
And in the spiritual mind also we have this thinking, feeling, willing capacity.
Yeah, but it's directed towards Krishna only.
And similarly for the ego, we have material ego, false ego, and spiritual ego, real ego.
False ego is many faceted. Spiritual ego is one. Jiva Sarupai Krishnera Nityadas. I am eternally servant of the Supreme Lord. That is spiritual ego. There's only one aspect to that.
Okay, so what you are saying, when we have to do spiritual things and avoid, when we have to do subtle things and avoid subtle things, it's because it's that we have to more and more do the activities related to spiritual mind or spiritual ego or spiritual intelligence. Is it?
Whatever you feed, you're gonna get. You feed your material life, that grows. You feed your spiritual life, that'll grow.
Maharaj, also we had this discussion and I'm just a little bit confused now. Some people say that soul is active. Okay. Some people say that soul is active. Soul here, it means not a jiva. I'm talking about.
We don't care what some people say. The soul is always active. That's in the Shastras.
Okay,
Some people will say that. We take the authority of the scriptures, of the gurus, the acharyas. The soul is by nature active.
So what are the activities of that soul?
Soul is service to the Supreme Lord.
That is the spiritual soul, right?
There's only one soul. You can't say spiritual soul. Soul is spiritual.
Yeah. But right now in the material world, when we say we are active, that's because of our prakriti, right?
So
it's a material nature.
Yeah, your material activities are to facilitate your material desires. That's spiritual activities. You facilitate your activity is always there, both on the material platform and spiritual platform. You can't stop activity. It depends where you want to put your attention. Put your attention on your material activities, then you get results on the material level, which are good, bad, or mixed. You engage in devotional service, it's called akarma, and then those activities bring you closer to Krishna and purify your consciousness.
So I did not know that there exists a mind, ego, and intelligence at spiritual level. I just thought that.
Yeah, the spirit, the soul also has form.
Okay.
The soul has form just like your body has form. The soul has an internal spiritual form. But you may not know what that form is in the beginning stages of bhakti. On the higher stages, then that form is revealed to you. That's in the higher stages of bhakti when you reach towards perfection. Okay, I have something I have to do right away. So
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you very, very much, Maharaj. Thank you all the devotees for joining today's session. Really, really useful for so nice questions also. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Brind ki
Jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.